Thank you so much for joining me on yet another chapter of our journey. I truly mean this from the bottom of my heart because if you have made it to the end of the season, I don't think you actually came here for inspiration, although that's pretty important. I think some part of you came here looking to imagine differently. And perhaps now you have realized something important, that starting with imagination can be a full circle, returning to parts of ourselves that have been hidden for far too long. Hi there. Welcome to Unspeakable Leadership, a space that transcends time, borders, and barriers to reclaim our stories as women of color, leading in organizations, communities, and in our own lives. I'm your host, Rohene Bouajram. With a 20-year career trajectory of leadership, an aspiring storyteller, mom of a son and a fur baby, first-generation immigrant, and uninvited guest in Canada, I want to thank you for being on this journey with me. Let us grow together in conversation. When we began season 5 of Unspeakable Leadership, I shared the theme. She built her own arena. And what I did not fully understand then, that I understand now, is that building your own arena is not simply about ambition. It's actually about honesty. The honesty to admit that the life that you have built has space to expand to something more aligned with what you deeply, deeply want. This season, we heard from women who are speaking honestly about their own definitions about expansion. Nicole reminded us that dreaming bigger is not delulu. Sometimes it is the first honest conversation you have with yourself after years of minimizing your desires. And when we pair that with our mindset, language reframes, and so much more, our reality shape shifts. Many showed us that self love is not always soft. Sometimes it is a difficult and sacred decision to spend time really getting to know who you are at this moment in time, to understand your deepest fears, your desires, your hopes, and yes, your dreams. Arcadia reminded us that many of the cages we fear leaving have already become too small for who we are becoming. And that can be scary and liberating at the same time. June and Darnett expanded our understanding of leadership beyond performance, beyond titles, or imposed roles that we believed we had to fit in to criteria, into metrics, into definitions that truly don't necessarily match who we want to be. Each woman, each guest has given us so much wisdom. And in June and Donette's case, they reminded us that leadership is not simply what you do, it is how you come to fully understand yourself in existence with your own values, your voice, and your vision. Emirates took us on a spiritual journey of inviting us back to our gifts, gifts that don't always have a language that we can explain, but sometimes it is that inner knowing, a connection to our intuition, and overcoming the ways of receiving and being that were suppressed in behaviors, in ideologies, because we needed to survive. And lastly, Chima. Chima reminded us that financial leadership is not just about money, although money is important, and we now get to have a different relationship with money. Rather, financial leadership is about authorship, choice, options, power, the ability to make decisions rooted in vision, in intentionality, instead of fear. To all of our guests, part of this season, Nicole, Minnie, Arcadia, June, Darnett, Emmons, and Chima, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your experience and sharing your wisdom. Because in many ways, when we can use ourselves and what we have gone through in our journeys as an instrument of possibilities, I know that for those who are listening and watching, the world is truly our oyster. And it begins with the way in which we start to see our own arena. As I think about how to stay connected, I invite you to subscribe to my newsletter. I promise I will not bombard you with daily emails. Good gravy. I shudder just even thinking about it. Subscribing by visiting my website is how you'll receive exclusive updates, podcast features, and thought leadership curated with you in mind. I hope you'll join me on my newsletter. Take care. To every listener and viewer, you could have chosen to do anything. And I know that the options are endless. Thank you for allowing these conversations to come into your life, your commute, your walk, your healing, your dreaming, and your becoming. And last but certainly not least, as I continue to hold gratitude, I want to remind each and every one of you that I don't do this work alone. It takes multiple hands and minds and hearts to bring this season to life. And I know my strengths, and I also know areas where others have zones of genius. So I want to thank Christina, who behind the scenes helps me with editing and preparing the season to go live. I want to say thank you for the multiple moments we got to be in creative space to vision and to actualize this season together. I appreciate you, Christina. Now, somewhere across all of these conversations, for me, a deeper truth kept emerging. Many of us spend years building lives around what feels attainable and achievable instead of what we actually want. And sometimes we get to a stage where we say, well, I will get that when this happens, when I have more money, when I have more time, when I have more freedom. And that realization can be confronting and it can be scary. And so this season only scratched the surface. Wink, wink, hint, hint. So I leave you not with a sense of closure, but rather an opening that you can begin starting, picking up, or redefining. And as you think about where you are, I want you to reflect on, what are you now rejecting? What are you now refusing? What are you pushing away? And if anything, what will you no longer allow? You see, for us to build our arena, we need to create space. Space, not just simply to fill it with the same old thing, but space to bring in more of new and aligned. And that's what I hope you got out of the season. The idea that you are allowed to want more luxury, more joy, more rest, more creativity, more visibility, more softness, more wealth, more time, more love, more expansion, more life, more leadership, more living. I know for many of us, when we think about leadership and we think about everything else that I've just shared, they're not different or separate. They're very much intertwined. And who you are as a leader is also who you are in all of these facets of your life. And you are allowed to want more. I truly believe that when we see more in each other, the more we create different worlds of possibilities. And as you think about building your own arena, it will require a different relationship that you have with yourself, which in turn will create a different relationship that you have with others. That relationship is anchored in trust, in imagination, and in your wildest dreams coming true. As we close this season, I simply leave you with a question that keeps surfacing and perhaps takes some of us back to the iconic 1996 hit Wannabe by the Spice Girls, which I have to tell you, I loved the Spice Girls. And in the opening line, they say, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. And that corresponds with another line. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. As you remember these words, I hope that you will remember a younger version of you who had a very iconic and visual for your career, your life, and that in turn impacted the decisions and the choices and the relationships and the realms you chose to make over time as you grew into your wisdom. And as you start to think about what would you respond to if somebody said, well, tell me what I want, what I really, really want, that you come out with some truth. And when we build this truth, we're building it in creation with each other. Until next season, take care, my dear. Take care of yourself and know that, my sister, you are dreaming bigger. You're building boldly and you are shattering all the expectations, not because someone said you couldn't, but because you decided that you could. If this episode spoke to something you have been quietly carrying, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Unspeakable Leadership and join thousands of listeners and viewers around the world who are redefining leadership on their own terms. Every week of each season, we unpack conversations most people avoid: power, identity, reinvention, grief, ambition, courage, the cost of shrinking, and the freedom of becoming. This podcast isn't surface level. It's honest, it's layered, it's the kind of conversation that stays with you long after the episode ends. So I'm going to ask you for a favor. Subscribe to this podcast, leave a review, or share the episode with somebody who needs to hear it. Because every share helps the stories that you hear reach the people who have been searching for the language, the clarity, and the right nudge to lead differently. And if an episode has moved you, tell me. I always love hearing from you.